Good morning, good evening, good day, everyone joining us. My name is Sebastian. I'm part of the community marketing team here at ICN. Thanks for everybody being with us today. Thanks for dialing in. Good morning. I think we have a bit of an echo. Now it should be resolved. From our first call to action would be to please share this with your community, your Twitter or X, because at least from our side, from Possible Cloud Network side, it's our first X space so far, so we really can't wait to kick things off. In the meantime, let's give the audience 2 to 3 minutes to roll in, and we'll be back shortly. All right, we're back. Hi, everyone again. My name is Sebastian. I'm part of the community marketing team here at Impossible Cloud Network. Thanks again for joining us for this special AMA together with Witness Chain. We have one respective co-founder of both Witness Chain and Impossible Cloud Network with us. So welcome everybody, and thanks for your time. This AMA will focus on the recently announced partnership between the two projects, as well as how this could potentially help advance the DeepIn industry in general. Before we start, I would like to do a quick audio check. So Kai is sitting right next to me here, so that should be fine. But maybe, Ranvir, could you come in real quick?
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Thank you for that. So let's kick it off. Before we jump into any dedicated question, really, I would like to provide some room for the background of the participants in this call. So Kai, maybe you can go ahead and provide some background on yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Sebastian. So great, first of all, to be here. I'm a serial entrepreneur, Kai, my name, and founded a company before, brought that to more than 1,000 employees, gaming Web2 company, total revenue in excess of $1 billion, was an entrepreneur of the year. And we did a reverse merger to the NASDAQ, so basically an IPO. And after that venture was really great experience there, learned lots of stuff. I focused 3 years ago, started focusing on the Web3 side, have learned a lot from the Web2 spaces, and now really excited to move the bar even higher and be super successful in the Web3 space and make it really happen, bring mass adoption to Web3.
Thanks for the intro, Kai. Ranvir, for anyone that doesn't know you yet, maybe you can provide a quick introduction of yourself.
Hi, everyone. Pleasure to be here. Looking forward to this partnership. I'm Ranvir. I'm the co-founder CEO of Witness Chain. We started Witness Chain around 3 years ago with the problem of solving consensus on physical state. So before starting Witness Chain, I did my PhD in a topic called solving the blockchain trilemma. So we're building consensus protocols that makes blockchains efficient, fast, and secure. But what we realized is, even if you do that, you need an application of blockchains. So for that, blockchains have to be exogenous. They have to bridge the cyber-physical divide. And we started Witness Chain with that objective. It's been 3 years. We've been launched on mainnet as a leading eigenlayer AVS with more than $7 billion of crypto economic security.
Fantastic. Thank you for the intro. Now that we know who we have here on the call today, maybe you can start with the general theme that we want to talk about today, which is DeepIn. Maybe, Ranvir, you could start. How would you define DeepIn?
Yeah, so DeepIn as a term was coined very recently. Broadly, this whole area is about developing physical infrastructure where the ownership lies at the edge, lies at the individual. Now, why is this important? Right? So if you look at physical infrastructure, it's by its nature decentralized because the world is decentralized. And because of that, it's very capital expenditure heavy. And that has led to a lot of bootstrapping difficulties if a new network wants to, if a new entity wants to develop its own network, be it compute, wireless, energy, and so on. Now, this decentralized nature makes it a perfect fit for the decentralization ethos of blockchain. When you look at DeepIns, they represent a fundamental shift in the economics of setting up physical infrastructure. So you moved capital expenditure to the edge, and doing so gives you a lot of speed, a lot of cost efficiency, and in fact, even more reliability if executed properly. On top of that, the main value prop of blockchain is coordination, which is, it enables individuals throughout the globe to build applications on top of a platform. And DPINs can enable this on the physical layer at a global scale. So fundamental shift in economics, not just in network deployment, but also in network usage. And that's the crux of it. Happy to go into details later in the space.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I'm very excited about this space in general, and especially about this conversation. Maybe Kai, coming from your background, what nuance would you add to this?
Yeah, so great explanation by Ranvir. So basically, I totally agree to all what you've said. And in addition to that, DPIN and the space that we are building right now, for me, is the ultimate answer to the problem. How are we able to build the next generation of the internet, right? So humankind will need way more decentralized networks, and they need to be scalable, resilient, and super secure. And I don't think there's a way to continue forever the way how the internet is developing over the last 10 years, maybe, which is more and more going into a very centralized space, right? So right now you have probably, I would say, 70%, depending on where you look at the globally, probably 70% of the cloud networks being operated and dominated by 3 to 4 companies. And this is nothing that you really can build on secure decentralized networks of the future. The internet itself has been built and architected for very good reasons in a very decentralized way at first. I don't know if many of you know, but obviously, like in the beginnings of the internet, there have been a huge discussions if this is the right way to go. And there was Microsoft, for example, saying, no, this is wrong. You need a way more secure centralized instance, some trust layer, basically, like Microsoft, for example, going for the internet highway, approving every internet URL and so forth by Microsoft and Microsoft Trust, and going any other way will lead to insecurity and so forth. History has told us that fortunately enough that didn't happen, and the internet was built for many reasons decentral, also not allowing any single point of failure and scaling the way it did today. But then, like, the centralization kicked in for many reasons, and I think nowadays the only way of making a change here, of really building a decentralized infrastructure that is owned and operated by many, it can only be done through the Web3 approach. And this is ultimately what Ranvir also said. Ultimately, you need to transfer the ownership to many and build this together, right? And that's the whole idea. And with all the tools that we have nowadays at hand, it is possible to do this in a scalable, performant, and a secure way, basically also tying into the blockchain dilemma.
And maybe when we put this to action, Kai, first of all, what is Impossible Cloud Network and how does it fit in here?
Yeah, so the idea of Impossible Cloud Network is essentially to, in the future, build an ecosystem that is replacing AWS in a decentral way, right? So AWS, as mentioned before, or other hyperscalers are dominating the cloud space. The cloud space is ultimately super important over the next 10 years and beyond. It's dominating already almost every vertical, almost every industry is dependent on these cloud networks. All the services are running in clouds nowadays. And obviously you need for future services even way more decentralized infrastructure. And what Impossible Cloud does is basically tying hardware providers all around the world. This can be tier 2, tier 3 data centers together, and offering on top of these hardware providers, offering services that enterprise customers or any customer can use. Of course, the services will not be programmed all by Impossible Cloud by itself. Also there, the idea is to partner with many DPINs and service providers. So basically building an ecosystem that in the end is a competitive product and the answer to a decentralized cloud.
Yeah, maybe Ranvir, when we look at Kai's perspective on a possible cloud network, I mean, you touched upon a few aspects already, but maybe for the new joiners in this space, you can give a quick introduction of Witness Chain again and how you guys fit in this whole DeepIn space.
Definitely. So what Witness Chain has built out is a coordination layer for DPINs. So what this means is, okay, let me go into a bit of background of like what a coordination layer is. Right? A most popular example of that is Ethereum. So Ethereum is a layer that coordinates anybody which they want to deal with digital state. So Uniswap can deal with Aave without actually trusting one another because there is an inherent trust established by Ethereum. Now, if the whole space of DPINs want to compete and in some sense do better than the traditional centralized intermediaries, it has to play as an ecosystem. What this means is different DPINs need to coordinate with one another and also coordinate with third-party application developers that want to build things on top of your physical infrastructure. To do that, you need trust. Now, the trust here is not just trust on a digital state, trust on tokens. It is trust on physical state. So you need to agree that everybody in the world should be able to verify that this particular physical asset has a certain capacity, is located somewhere, has some physical attribute that gives it value in this whole ecosystem. And what we have built out is a coordination layer that builds that trust. It achieves consensus on physical state. And once you achieve consensus on physical state, you can enable a lot of financialization on top of DPINs. You can make sure that DPINs are reliable. So think of an enterprise, since Kai mentioned, a gold standard that we can hit is can we have enterprise customers using decentralized physical infrastructure? Now, if you want enterprise customers in a traditional AWS deal, they are secured by the force of law, and if AWS does not secure their service, well, they can sue them or get some refund. If you want a similar guarantee in this decentralized space, you need to be backed by some sort of crypto economics. So the way we work is we are an eigenlayer AVS. So what this means is any statement that our network generates is secured by billions of dollars of ETH staked on that platform. That means that if you want to lie about service delivery or something like that, you need to control a huge amount of stake, which would be virtually impossible to do for a single enterprise deal. So our goal is to make this whole process of DeepIn supply, demand, tech disintermediated, and through that to grow this space significantly to its full potential.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Ranvir. Now, if we think, I mean, you mentioned a lot what you guys have been working on, and maybe when I can keep you on the line here, where do you think we are currently in the process, and where do you foresee the space going, especially looking into your project and the potential collaboration with us?
Broadly, the way I see this space going is, right now we have a lot of. Eventually, it will become its own economy. You want the whole infrastructure economy represented on chain. Where we see the space right now is it's very emerging. We see a lot of big projects like yours join the space. But for this whole system to work, you need different infrastructure to interoperate. And interoperation relies on three basic layers. Interoperation through at the physical layer, storage should communicate with compute, and compute should communicate with uh, with wireless or networking. Well, all of that is enabled through standards. There are standards for communication, standards for computation, and so on. But the two missing parts are interoperation with regards to economics. There should be economics that make sure that two different DPINs can partner together, and interoperation through trust, which is two DPINs need to trust one another and trust any third-party application builder on top of that. Once you do that, what you would start seeing is the whole physical infrastructure economy that we see right now, which is mostly powered through the legal system and through audits, move on chain. You would see an equivalent of right now there are commodities futures exchanges for oil and corn. You would see, but what's the new age commodity? The new age commodity is compute, storage, uh, bandwidth, and markets for that will be set up on the blockchain itself.
Yeah, so if we maybe take a step back and we've covered now that DePIN really, holds a lot of potential and a lot of opportunity to disrupt existing infrastructure. Like you mentioned, Ranvir, this is on a good path from a technological perspective. Kai, maybe because your background is more with the commercial ones, maybe you can provide your perspective here as well.
Yeah, so let me take a step back because you asked also about the vision going forward. Where is this going in the next years? And then potentially also the collaboration and why we are so excited working together with Witness Chain. So if I take a step back, I really like to take big problems with first principles and really going with the wave of physics and so forth. And this is the reason why I believe we are building something that in the long run is superior to the approaches of the hyperscalers that we are competing with in the long run. Why is that the reason? First of all, building decentralized networks are essentially needed for a lot of applications, AI inference and all that kind of stuff that is being produced on the edge. And essentially, it's necessary to build decentral networks because it doesn't make sense from a physical standpoint to move the data to the compute. It's the other way around. So the data is being created on the edge, growing exponentially, and you want to move the compute to the edge and don't move the data. And for this reason, you need decentral networks more and more in the coming future. Right, so this is something like the logical next step of the CDNs that have been built, 15 years ago. And in the AI world of the future, you will need these type of networks. These type of networks can be built in a decentral way, much easier than from a central organization. And so it's way more efficient and it's way more also from a security and data sovereignty aspect. You also want to have not all the data in one company's hand. So I think there are a lot of reasons why these networks will come in the future. And also what Web3 has shown already, if you look back slightly, it has shown already that tremendous amounts of hardware networks, basically worth billions of dollars, no matter what networks you look into, if it's like an Ethereum network or even a Bitcoin network in terms of hardware, or also large DePIN projects that are out there already, from a Filecoin to others. They have gathered billions worth of hardware. What the next step is that this really needs to come, and this is our approach basically, and here the loop is going back to my commercial background probably. You need to build enterprise grade applications, right? So you need to utilize this hardware to make this accessible for enterprise customers. This is the only way to build something in the long run that is superior. So that's the big gap to bridge. And in order to meet these requirements, it's easier said than done, because you need a lot of stuff in terms of performance and security and durability and compliance and so forth. And this is not easy. One of the things where I also foresee a lot of things happening is, and where we are really excited also partnering with Witness Chain, is what is broadly described as the also like the DePIN verification problem, basically. So the whole DePIN space needs to prove that essentially everything that is being done on the edge is as supposed to be. Right? The capacity, that is claimed from hardware providers is supposed to be there. You need to check it, or the bandwidth, or the location that the geolocation that certain things are being operated out of, right? And many other proofs need to be done. And we took an approach also here again, like saying, okay, we are not going to develop all the proofs ourselves. We are partnering with other projects that bring proofs into the ecosystem. And that's essentially a super important building block. This is necessary in order to move from a trusted permission network into a trustless and permissionless network. You need to establish this trust, and you need to prove this in a performant, scalable way, also economically feasible, right? And this is when we started the ecosystem from the get-go, was always the idea, build products, bring mass adoption from Web 2 to Web 3, and these proofs are essential building blocks. And one last thing maybe to mention here, so Impossible Cloud already has a significant amount of customer base. Enterprise customers, the typical Web 2 customers, basically, who use the product, store at the moment probably like up to 50 million files every day into the system. And we are really excited of opening up this platform with many additional services and many additional proofs so that we can onboard more and more hardware providers into the system and more services, and together then build a system that is competitive. Before that, I think right now the Web3 space is doing good, yeah, but it's evolving. But at the moment, there are still a lot of silos that need to be connected together to an ecosystem where everybody is mutually benefiting. And I think that Witness Chain and Impossible Cloud really share this idea of getting these silos connected in a way that everything together is more than the sum of its parts.
And I think that's a fantastic transition, and actually already touches upon a few thoughts on what this collaboration could look like. Maybe Ranvir, I mean, for anyone that missed it, you could recap the strengths of Witness Chain, what you have achieved so far, and then maybe how this collaboration can help move the industry forward, really.
Definitely. And yeah, well said, Kai. Yeah, let's break the silos. So, broadly, before we even talk about, coordination across deepins, a very fundamental problem that deepins have to solve is the verification problem, which is making sure that your decentralized participants are actually providing the service that they or the capacity in hardware, in compute, storage that they are claiming, right? Why is this critical? So this is critical in various aspects. First is if you want to deploy a DPIN, you want to make sure that you incentivize people to deploy that infrastructure, and these incentives are tied to these physical attributes. So you need a verifiable means to find out what that physical attribute is. This physical attribute can be its location, compute capacity, storage capacity, so on. Witness Chains has a core to our coordination layer are these proof systems that prove these physical attributes in a Byzantine fault-tolerant, crypto-economically secure way. Once you have achieved that, not only are you like bootstrapping your network organically, you're also doing that in a reliable manner. So if any customer wants to use your service, this customer can be, as Kai pointed out, it can be an enterprise, but it can also be like a specific application, like an AI app wants to use your service. It can be rest assured that your network has the capability, has the capacity of delivering the service, and it would have delivered that service. And the core to that is this problem of consensus. It's not consensus as we know it from Ethereum and Solana or anything like that, but this is consensus on the physical world. That's the crux of it.
Yeah, maybe Kai, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, one thing to add here from our side, like, we definitely have a lot of strengths on the Web 2 side because we have been built like also tremendous networks at scale. So I've been building with my company in the past networks spanning across probably 180 countries, serving 500 million customers, millions of customers concurrently interacting with the same thing with low latency and so forth. I think essentially we had customers in almost any country except for, I think, North Korea and Iran, maybe. But one thing that we are really excited about is like bringing this trust into our ecosystem, bringing the knowledge and understanding of witness chain onto our ecosystem, because this ultimately will definitely make this happen, the scale of Web3, right? So the potential of onboarding many hardware providers all across the globe. We are onboarding hardware providers right now. I think there has been the question in the past a couple of times, who can become a hardware provider? At the moment, for the network, for us, it's super important to have really professional hardware providers that operate out of tier 2, tier 3 data centers and can operate hardware at scale, storage in the future, in the near-term future, also GPU and then other hardware components. But the idea is basically the closer we move together with witness chain, the more we can open this up and enable other hardware providers also on a permissionless and trustless way to join the network.
And if we now focus on the partnership announcement, there was a claim that we, enhance transparency, reliability for any cloud service provider. Maybe Ranvir, you can share some high-level key technological aspects of the proofs that were mentioned, which I think were proof of bandwidth and proof of location.
Definitely. So what we're integrating with ICN this is just the starting steps, is proof of location and bandwidth. Now, these systems ensure that a server within ICN per se would have a verified location and a verified connectivity with its participation. Now, the way this would help is, one of the core components of a cloud provider is, compliance, and there are like compliance about like where your data is stored, where this compute happens. Well, you can use proof of location to make sure that the server storing your data or server computing on your data is located within a certain boundary, and you can do this in a fault tolerant way. So what about like if the node is sitting behind a VPN? Well, if your server is sitting behind a VPN, proof of location can still catch that it's behind a VPN and make sure that it's non-compliant. So it ensures compliance. It also ensures like however the SLAs that ICN generates. So this SLAs can be, this server has to be over here, it has to be online all the time. Bandwidth, proof of bandwidth ensures connectivity with the internet, but it also ensures that server is online. So it has to be online with a certain amount of time. This is an uptime. And we also have an upcoming proof of diligence integration that can come up, which can make sure that the compute which is happening within a server is correct. So you can utilize all of these systems together to basically design a service level agreement that ICN can then use to its end customers and make sure that they deliver a reliable and secure service.
Yeah, and maybe to underline that, because I've done sales my side as well on the Possible Cloud side at least, and I can't stay too. There's no overstating how important these metrics really are, right? These quality guarantees. But Kai, maybe you can share with us how ICN will explore these integrating these two proofs.
Yeah, I think definitely the proof of bandwidth and the proof of location definitely are a crucial part in order to enable all the enterprise-grade security and transparency of our network. So one thing, just to make this very specific here, enterprise customers care very, very much where their data is being located or where their data is being processed, right? So also from a legal perspective, you have definitely certain requirements if you have customer data, for example, within the European Union or within the US. And for a lot of reasons, many customers don't want the data to leave the country. So the feature is basically called geofencing that we offer here. And of course, we need to make sure that in fact the data is where we claim the data to be. And in order to make this happen, a proof of location definitely is a very, very crucial part that is essentially needed in order to offer enterprise services. Same thing is true for proof of bandwidth. And the more we have these proofs in place, I'm repeating myself here, but it's super important, the more we will be able to onboard hardware providers in a very efficient way. And these types of validations are necessary to build out any kind of decentralized system that we are talking about here. And I think it's a super important first step, getting this partnership up and running.
Fantastic. Maybe since we only have a few minutes left, we can open up the floor to some questions from the community and everybody that joined us here today. So I'll give it a second, and then maybe we can have some hands. Because people, there we go. I see Jan raised his hand. Jan, do you want to go? Should be able to hear you now. I think you're muted again.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Fantastic. So hi, thank you very much, Impossible Cloud Network and Witness Chain team. I was wondering, in 5 years from now, maybe to you, Kai, what will the space look like?
Well, I mean, obviously, making predictions 5 years out is really hard and really tough because it's a long period. But I'm foreseeing already in the next couple of years that the whole DePIN space is moving to significant mass adoption, right? So I think there are a lot of DePINs right now already that are that have understood how important it is to really build the demand side. The supply side basically. It needs to be there, it needs to be compliant. A lot of projects have a huge supply side being built, but the demand side is something that is lacking. And in order to build out the demand side, real customers, real services, Web2 companies that actually only pay with fiat money and so forth, using cloud services, for example, they are only moving into DePIN systems if they are scalable, if they are performant, if they are secure, if they are up and running. So all these things are needed. And in order to make this happen, we are, I think, on a very good path. And the funny thing is usually with exponential growth, that in the beginning, you see not much happening, right? So you go from 0.1 to 0.2 to 0.4, whatever, and really takes forever, kind of. And then all of a sudden, you get it to an inflection point where things are exploding. And I think we are just about to reach this inflection point where there will be lots of customers using that. And I think this will happen not only in 5 years, but more likely in the next year already. And then from there, it's exponential growth. And then a lot more companies will try to jump into the space and projects will jump into the space. And I think last but not least, this is also super important for the whole Web3 industry. Because ultimately, the more mass adoption you bring, the more real-world use cases you bring to Web3, the more you justify the technology at its core.
Thanks for the question. I'm really fascinated by this as well. And while we don't have a nobody can look into the future. I think it's really interesting question to ask. Okay, where is the space moving? Where are we 5 years from now? So maybe Ranvir, you also have some thoughts on this.
Yeah, I completely agree with Kai. It's once you achieve critical mass, the space is going to explode because not only like these beacons not only provide security and reliability benefits, but they have a potential to like even you know undercut the centralized providers in pricing, which is critical in business. But looking forward from that, what I see is, once you develop a global trust in any physical asset, which is gathering information and computing on that information, you can literally bring anything on chain. Like even physical assets that don't have computer on them can be observed. Hard physical assets, and they can be observed by smart assets, which are trusted uh, uh, through these networks. And now you can have the whole world on chain in some sense, and I think that would enable a lot of economic opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, it's most definitely very exciting. This brings me to another thought, and maybe asking the community here as well. If you want to ask any questions, feel free to. One question that comes to mind here from my side is, I mean, Web3, it also has a lot of advantages because it creates a win-win for the community as well, right? So maybe, Kai, some thoughts from your side. What do you think is the role of the community in building all of this?
Well, I mean, the whole idea of Web3 is building things together. And this is, if you enable this strength or this opportunity, then this is ultimately superior to any other approach. Basically, open sourcing software, having others to really build together on the software, but also ultimately opening up the network, as we discussed, for hardware providers, providing hardware all around the globe, maybe excess capacity, or other hardware. Same thing on the services side. So ultimately, when I was running my last super successful Web2 business, there was always like this elephant in the room. There is no way of competing against the big tech companies in the States, right? So ultimately, they have built so many moats and muscles that there is no way of competing. If you enable Web3 in the right way, I think this is not true anymore, because no matter how many smart people are sitting in one company, even if you have 100,000 employees, there will be always more smart people outside of that company. And that's ultimately what needs to happen in the Web3 space, getting rid of the silos, building an ecosystem where many developers, hardware providers, network participants ultimately can play a significant role and contribute to the whole network as such, and also own part of the network as such. And that ultimately, if you enable this, will be much stronger than any central company, no matter how big it is.
Ranvir, any thoughts from your side on how important the community and all of this is?
Definitely, I would say that's the most important part. It's not just in the community, as Kai said. It's not just used for generating more supply for your network, but it's critical in building things on your network. And decentralized platforms in general are better places to build than centralized platforms. It allows, first of all, there are no geographical restrictions as far as legalese is concerned, and there is predictability that this platform is not going to cut off its API access or anything like that. So there's a huge potential unlock in Deepin through the builder community, which we see oncoming soon in this space.
Right. Maybe, opening up the floor here, Ranvir, any thoughts, anything from your side that we haven't discussed yet?
I think we have covered the most important aspects.
Great, fantastic. Kai, from your side?
Let's kick things off and make our vision happen together.
Fantastic. Just a quick note from my side, if you want to continue the discussion, feel free to join the individual Discord communities as well. Thanks both co-founders for Kai and Ranvir for the time to join us in this X space. I hope everybody in the audience enjoyed this. Before we close this, I want to just give a shameless plug to both of our events on the Tuesday, the 9th of July, I believe, we, as Impossible Cloud Network, will have a co-hosted event with Parket Network, as well as sponsored by the Falcon Foundation. Panelists including, for instance, a DeepIT project like Akash, Jensen, LivePeer, and so on and so forth. On Witness Chain's event, feel free to join as well. That's taking place on Thursday, I believe, the 11th of July. And I actually believe we will have we will contribute to this as well. Until then, thanks everyone for joining this space. And looking really forward to kicking this off. Take care.